Welcome, everybody, to the Private Property Farming Podcast. My name is Mbali Nwoko, your host, every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. This is episode 114, and our title for tonight's conversation is Planting Programs for Small-Scale Farmers. So if you're a small-scale farmer struggling with a planting program or a growing program, or you just don't have markets and don't know what comes first, do you go out and seek markets, or do you develop a growing and planting program so that you could service markets? I think this conversation might be quite helpful because we're speaking to a young agripreneur, CEO of Desert Green Farming. I think I pronounced that correctly, but he'll correct me just now. And his name is Tumelo Chiloane. Sorry, it's Desert Green Africa, I believe. And yes, I'm speaking to Tumelo Chiloane, and he will tell us all about how he works together with informal traders as well as small-scale growers or small-scale farmers, and connect the two, as well as come up with solid planting programs or growing programs that could assist the small-scale farmer at the end of the day to be able to service the informal market. And he's got a very interesting solution to this. He's brought in a tech element, which I'm quite keen and interested to hear. If you have any questions for Tumelo this evening, please just drop a question in the comment section. We're more than willing to answer your question. And we love engagement. We love hearing from you at the Farming Podcast family. And please like, share, and subscribe. And if you missed this episode, go onto our YouTube channel, and you could obviously catch this episode 114 on our farming playlist under the Private Property YouTube channel. So let's get straight into it, and let's welcome Tumelo. How are you doing, Tumelo?
Good, Mbali. How are you? It's a pleasure to join you tonight, man.
I'm good. It's you see, I've been around so many farms of late, so I'm just saying Desert Green Farming. I just wish everybody was just a farmer, but yeah, Desert Green Africa. Is that correct?
That's the correct word, yes. And we always honestly deliberately include the Africa, but just to make sure that everybody understands that we are coming for the whole continent, because
that's actually what I was about to ask, to say, not to put pressure on you, but are you going, throughout the African continent in the next couple of years? I don't know. Is that your dream then?
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. That's what the target is set on, but it's still going to be a long journey. And at the moment we're still here. But looking forward to having this conversation with you tonight, man.
Awesome. Likewise. So, Tumelo, let's get straight into it. And obviously, thank you for your time, because I know as entrepreneurs, we're quite busy, and especially entrepreneurs in the agri space. We've hit December. A lot of farmers are harvesting, especially in the Highveld region, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northwest. So we're busy harvesting. So I can imagine it's quite busy on your end. But maybe first introduce yourself as who you are, and what does Desert Green Africa do?
So as introduced, my name is Tumelo Chiloane. I'm the CEO for Desert Green Africa, one of the co-founders. Actually have two other partners that pillaring me throughout this journey, which has been an interesting one. So in a nutshell, what Desert Green does is we are building mobile solutions for the informal value chain in Africa. So what we are doing in simple terms is connecting small-scale farmers to informal traders, which are some of the largest buyers of fresh produce in South Africa, actually, so that we are able to have a cheaper, faster, and more transparent food system. Not only just something that benefits small-scale farmers and the traders that sell themselves, but also the end user who buys in the streets, because that's what it comes down to when it comes to food prices. And so essentially that's what we are building. So in market right now, what we have is the marketplace, which is our flagship product. We call it Green Cut. So that's what we have in market at the moment.
Right. It's quite interesting to meet an agripreneur who's decided to focus on the informal market. why specifically bringing a tech solution to the informal market and not maybe sell it commercially?
So, I think maybe just to give a bit of context, right?
Yeah.
Specifically in South Africa, I think we are actually wearing some rosy glasses. The level of retail penetration that exists in South Africa actually doesn't exist anywhere else on the continent. We are the highest ones. I think somewhere close to about 63% retail penetration. And even with that, those types of retails, they are mostly dominated by a small number of commercial farmers that do exist, because buyers like your Pick and Pays and your ShopRites, and they honestly speaking do not want to deal with the type of headache that exists, when it comes to aggregating small-scale farmer produce. So you find where in South Africa, then you find a situation where you've got like a parallel agricultural market system, where you've got the commercial retail market, but also the informal one. And obviously, it was a no-brainer when we started the journey. We were thinking, no, small-scale farmers need to produce more so we can sell to Pick and Pay, But along the journey, we started seeing the difficulties that come with small-scale farmers also being unable to supply those retail markets. So honestly, we just followed the value chain, and we realized that of the 2.5 million plus small-scale farmers, like an overwhelming majority of them rely on the informal value chain, which is through market agents, through fresh produce markets. And if we are to be critically honest, it's a very crippling system for the small scale farmers. It's very expensive, it's unreliable, it's not transparent. And so I think following that journey became almost of a no-brainer to us to say, this is actually where the problems exist, and this is what we need to do. And so far it's been nothing but quite an interesting one, I must say.
Yeah. So talk us through the tech solution that Desert Green Africa has founded. So who is actually using it? Is it the informal trader or is it the farmer? Or are you connecting both onto the platform? Yes. And you're managing that buying? Please just take us through it.
So what we have built essentially is just a platform where both small-scale farmers and traders can meet without too much intervention from us, unlike the traditional agent system, right? So on the small-scale farmer side, primarily for green card, right? What they will do is when you go to a farm, you will find them producing something at the moment. So we make it a point to be able to take what they are currently producing. So from the farmer side, they just have to list the produce that they are currently planting. And on the trader side, we list the demands, what they are currently looking for. And once that interaction starts, then the farmer is able to list what they are able to grow next, based on also what the informal traders say they want going forward. So that's on the green card. And additionally, for the small scale farmers, they will also be able to use this data to determine these planting programs, and not just with the market demand, but with just the soil sample. They'll be able to take a soil sample and send it to the nearest soil lab. Then our app uses that soil analysis results to auto-generate a very simple weekly crop nutrition plan that they can follow for the said crop that is chosen on the platform. So that's on the farmer side. And on the trader side is essentially a buy transaction, Yeah. And then we deliver it to the informal trader stall without them having to leave their stall to go and get stock.
Yeah, because I know, having worked with informal traders, they wake up like at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., between 2 and 4 a.m. They're at the markets. By 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, they're at their table in the townships, So, and then they sit there the entire day till like 6, 7 p.m., and then the next day it's the same thing again. So am I correct in saying with Desert Green Africa, you guys will channel the deliveries? So meaning if I'm a farmer all the way in Babsfontein, you'll come collect my peppers and then would drop it off at Mrs. So-and-so in Vosloorus, for example.
Exactly. So in addition to just working with the farmers, what we also do is actually map the informal traders' locations, even though some of them will tend to move from time to time, but the movement is not that much. So we'll map and geotag their actual trading locations so that when we are able, when we send a truck down to the actual, like the closest or nearest farm to that group of informal traders, we'll send down a truck to collect the produce, and it will drop directly where the informal traders sell without them having to leave. They can wake up at normal times, like normal people that go to work. They don't have to do the inconvenient traveling in the wee hours of the morning. And also, funny enough, I'm sure you've seen at the markets, a lot of them actually hire even like taxis to carry stock for them, you know, from fresh produce markets to their place of trading, things like that. And you consider things like food hygiene. They are obviously not ideal. So those are some of the problems that will be.
Absolutely. So now, how do you pick the farmers? I think earlier on you said that, you know, you're really connecting farmers to the informal traders that are already farming. So, and you've mentioned of small or certain elements around planting programs, you know, soil analysis, etc. So when a farmer wants to come on board with Desert Green Africa, what is the requirement list that you expect from the farmer? And do you then create a planting or growing program based on what the farmer is farming, or based on what the informal trader would like the farmer to farm?
So logically, the planting program will be based on the demands from the informal trader side. But obviously, this is progressive information, right? So as a new farmer, when most of them that want these services, the primary thing is market access. Small scale farmers will reach out and say, yo, I'm planting tomatoes, I've got peppers, I've got spinach, this and that. I'm not sure where I'm going to sell them, but I know I can take them to the fresh produce market, but is there somewhere better? Mainly, that's how we meet farmers. So, which is very important for us to try and sell what they are already planting. Then based on the demands that we get from informal traders, from the interaction with informal traders, we then give the recommendation of the type of crops to look at for the next planting cycle. So it's progressive in that manner.
All right, fantastic. How long did it take you to develop this tech application? I think you said Green Cart. And how was the reception like from informal traders as well as small scale farmers? Because I also know, again, just dealing with informal traders, they like quick things, you know, compliance, things like that. Technology is just not for them. And they work mostly with a cash system. They want to see the crop, they want to buy it, and then they go to their table. So how was the reception? So firstly, how long did it take you to develop a Green Cart? And how was the reception like from both ends of the spectrum into having to incorporate this tech into their businesses?
So Green Cart was actually the simpler one. I think it took us about 6 months to build the product up to where it is now. What took longer was the crop nutrition formulation that we had to do for the other side of that, you know. But yeah, Green Cart took about 6 months. And in terms of reception, like you were saying, informal traders want things now. So we had to be a little bit tricky also to it. So we'd initially take the risk, you know, we'd go to the streets, we'd spend some time there and actually find out what is currently short. And we would take the risk of going out, getting that produce, and use that produce to engage with them for upcoming transaction. And essentially, that's how it works. It's mainly a relationship of trust. If you cannot deliver what you say you have, and they want it now, it's over. You know, so that's how we mainly keep it. So the reception has been like, do you have it now? And you know, it's an ongoing it's an ongoing journey. You know, the trust is slowly building up. But on the farm side, I think the relationships have been ongoing for a little bit longer because we've been also offering just advisory service, even though they are not selling through us or anything like that. So we've been able to build some relationship on the farmer side. So mainly the focus now is on the trader side.
Yeah, Tumelo, I just want to find out, because this is all about planting programs or growing programs, how do you then deal with the challenges where farmers are dealing with high input costs and say, yes, Tumelo or Green or Desert Green Africa, I really want to service this growing program, but prices of input costs have gone up significantly. Can I, instead of 1 ton, can I just do 200 kilograms, for example? And so how do you deal with the challenge of rising input costs that you might face from farmers? And also, how do you then advise farmers? Because I presume you guys are not agronomists, you're not soil specialists, soil scientists, etc., water specialists, etc. How do you then assist farmers who are struggling with pests and diseases on their farm so that they can actually meet their growing program?
Well, okay. So yeah, one of the most critical things on the planting program, right? Apart from the soil analysis results, or with the soil analysis results, the main thing to check there is crop suitability, first of all. Which crop is most likely to grow here with the least amount of resources, connected to the climatic region as well, right? That's one of the important things. But also from the informal trader side, because the demand is for a wide variety of crops, we are able to recommend to farmers crops that are a little bit less cheaper to produce, but still fetch some reasonable prices in the market, also based on their soil conditions and the climate, what to expect in their climatic regions. And so, because unfortunately we don't necessarily have much of an influence on the prices of inputs, we can only try and go counterproductive against them. So we actually, our team actually has a soil scientist and a crop scientist, right? So disease, we can diagnose, but treatment usually requires phytopathologist specialists, which we currently do not have, but we are able to diagnose some of these common diseases that farmers experience and recommend solutions.
Right. Because again, planting programs are typically associated with markets, obviously production and then market. Who determines the price? Does a farmer list their product on the green cart and say, this is my price? Or, is it a three-way conversation where the informal trader would say, no, the current market price is giving X, the farmer wants X, and then you guys, find a middle ground. So who determines the price in this instance?
So it's somewhat of a three-way conversation where we show obviously what the going market prices is, so that there isn't somewhat of so that one person doesn't benefit more than the other. But in a basic matter of principle, that what we are trying to do is get small-scale farmers to take charge of their unique economics on their farms and actually know what their production costs are, so that prices can actually be based on that and not only just market fluctuations, because there's a lot of I call it a data blackout that causes those market influations that don't necessarily have anything to do with the production of foods. So that's one of the things that we are trying to change, with making this whole market system transparent in real time. So yeah, it's somewhat of a three-way conversation, and usually we'll find a sweet spot.
Yeah. So what type of commodities are really in demand? Because we typically see small-scale farmers always farming spinach. Everybody has spinach, Tumelo. And everybody is also struggling with market for spinach because everybody's just flooding the market. So it seems like typically small-scale farmers would start off with spinach or cabbage, but I think spinach is the most popular commodity. But what are the most fast-moving commodities that is in demand from informal traders, so that any small-scale farmers listening could maybe think about planting?
Look, it will obviously move from season to season, but some crops that you'll never go wrong with will obviously be tomato, onions, your type of okras, your you know, your butternuts, and those are some of the fast moving crops on the informal trader markets. And yes, I think apart from things like spinach and cabbage being easy to plant for small scale farmers, I think also most of it is based on the lack of information of what else is being bought out there, hence the level of flooding for particular type of crops, you know. Yeah, but tomatoes, onions, pumpkins, potatoes, those everyday type of consumed that people cook with, those are the ones that we observe to be moving the most and the quickest. And of course, there's now this current, this season is always the highest peak in terms of fruits. So your lychees, unfortunately, those mainly come from bigger people, but those are the types of crops that kind of saturate the streets in these current.
And I think I know personally, I tend to forget this, because yes, informal traders do sell vegetables and fruit. But I think every time we deal with small scale farmers, we always tend to focus on vegetables. And I think also fruit is such a lucrative one. But again,
always.
To farm fruit in a very small scale doesn't really reap the rewards as much because years and years to grow. But I just want to know from Desert Green Africa, what have been your challenges as a business, as an agripreneur in this space? Firstly, dealing with both the informal traders and as well as the farmers. And then secondly, just building up a tech business.
Look, honestly, I think the main challenge has been the trust element. I think that's the biggest part. Being able to convince both farmers and traders that you can deliver what you say you can deliver, and it's understandable because most of them's livelihoods actually depends on what you say you are selling. So that has been one of our biggest challenges in terms of uptake. Other than that, it's the fact that you will probably need to pull from A to Z to make a transaction happen, because that's the nature of this space. You need to help organize the logistics. You need to make sure that the transaction is safe in transit. All those things, But apart from that, I think it's just been mainly the trust. And from a tech perspective, the one thing I think that took us a bit of time to understand was the fact that the tech that we are building really is for ourselves to help us make better business decisions for both small scale farmers and traders, because they honestly don't care much about the tech. They want the end product, the value that you are selling. So we that's how we tend to balance our craze a little bit between tech and real life problem solving. So it's been quite an eye opener.
Yeah, and I mean the advantage here of building a tech business is that you have data, and they say data is king, data is gold. So what in future are you willing to do with such data? Because I totally agree with you. Informal traders would say, Desert Green Africa, I want 50 boxes of tomatoes here tomorrow at 30 Rand or 40 Rand. That's essentially what they will rate you on, right? And then the farmer would say, Desert Green Africa, buy my 50 tomatoes at 35 Rand tomorrow and give me cash. And if you meet that, that is what they will rate you on and base you on. So as you're gathering this data over time, maybe in weeks and months, what are you hoping to see to build out of this data? You said you want to make business decisions. What other business decisions could you possibly make? Because I presume that for you guys to be a success is to have many informal traders and many farmers on board, but farmers farming a diverse range of crops to meet the demands of the informal trader, and that's that. So what are you looking to build in the near future as the months go by, as the solution improves, the tech solution improves from a data perspective? What really are you looking to see and uncover?
So essentially what we are looking to do beyond just connecting farmers and traders is essentially build a parallel retail system, because this is the way that our people buy. So why the data will be important in future is we'll be able to know what an informal trader's capacity to sell is in their current location. And with all of the mapped information, we'll be able to know at what other point can this informal trader be able to sell a little bit better to stimulate a higher production on the farms. And once it gets to that level, I think the conversation we were having a little bit earlier about financing then starts becoming a lot more viable, because then there's now a business case between both. There's a clear demand at a fair and transparent price, and there is more than enough supply on the other hand. And questions of finance then become a lot more easier to solve with that type of data. So I think that's where it's going to be going in the next years,
Yeah. Well, Tumelo, I think your initiative is fantastic. I mean, this business that you're building is fantastic as well. When did you guys start Desert Green Africa, and what's next for 2022?
So we started a while back. We actually started on the farm side. We started in 2016, farmed ourselves, tried to do the off-take agreement route, spent a lot of money, and that's how we actually started building the solution. And so it's been since 2016 up until now, and the journey is still exciting, man. And for 2022, we'll just be mainly focusing on this closed pilot that will be going in for Gauteng. So for the next 6 months, we'll just be ramping up mainly the logistics system of how to move this produce better, quicker, and cheaper to this already existing pool of traders and farmers that we have. So it's going to be a little bit of a closed pilot, but as soon as we start seeing what we like, then we're going to go full launch and open it up to everybody.
Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Tumelo. It was thoroughly engaging, and I think it's, like I said before, it's an interesting business that you and your partners have built, and I think you're definitely onto something there, but definitely focusing on the forgotten individuals, so to say, because everybody looks at formalized business, commercial farmers, mega boere, as people would say. So what about the small scale farmers? And I like the fact that you're focusing also on informal traders, because informal traders make up township economies. As much as big established retail brands are in the townships, informal traders are running the show down there. And so, it will be interesting to see how you guys grow in leaps and bounds. But thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having us, man. And we'll definitely be happy to join you again sometime soon, just to give you a bit of progress of how the journey is going. But we're definitely looking forward to the coming year. Thank you very much, man. It was a very beautiful conversation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. That was Tumelo Chiloane joining us. He's the CEO of Desert Green Africa. He does have partners in this business. They started in 2016, started farming a bit, and then just realized that, there's a bigger need there's a bigger problem that we could solve by connecting small scale farmers with informal traders. And he basically told us how his business worked. There's a tech solution that is enabling the trade between small scale farmers as well as informal traders, and you heard both ends of the spectrum just want to do business, and they really don't care about the tech solution. At the end of the day, they want a product. The small scale farmer wants a product to be sold. The informal trader wants a product at the best price on their table. And if you're a small scale farmer, and that was listening to this conversation, spinach and cabbage is not the only commodities that you could farm. Broaden your horizon, broaden your knowledge about what else people buy, especially from an informal trader. Go to your local informal trader and ask her or him, what is it that you buy and which commodities are fast moving? And as Tumelo said, it's butternuts, it's your tomatoes, it's your onions. Those are just the simple crops that I could definitely say could get you going, either than spinach or cabbage. But if you miss this conversation, go onto our YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube private property YouTube channel, go onto the playlist and search for the Farming Podcast. This is episode 114. This is where you'll find my conversation with Tumelo Chiloane. And I believe search for them on social media. If you want to hear more information about them, and hopefully we could have them back onto the podcast next year to discuss their growth and how they've really grown over the past couple of seasons as well. But thank you so much for watching this evening. We truly appreciate your time. And as always, keep the comments, keep subscribing, keep watching out and listening to the Farming Podcast every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. And I will see you next week. Take care.
Cheers.